forward to getting into the new album. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Thank you. Okay.
So, I want to begin our journey before we get into the album by asking you this. 5 years ago, the whole COVID thing was going down, it was changing everything. How did you survive the pandemic of 2020, and how has it radiated into your creativity and what you do now in 2025?
Mhm. Well, my career lasts a long, long time. So I started performing in the late 80s. I've been doing this for just a long time, almost like 35, 40 years. So I have to tell you, when the pandemic hit, I didn't mind taking a step back from stage performing, the pressure of performing, and keeping my instrument going. So keeping my chops up. I just actually, when it happened, of course, we were all shocked. All my kids came from different parts of the world to be with me. My son was in Santa Barbara. My daughter was in San Francisco. And my other two boys, just, of course, still at school, some of them. Just we all united here in the house and said, okay, let's see what's going on, and let's see how we're going to deal with this. And it was I for 16 months I wasn't performing. I was first very worried also financially, not to have the income because I'm the breadwinner in the family. And my husband is around too. He's a musician, so he makes even less money than me. But then we got a bailout, which worked. I was really happy about getting some support from the government at the time. And um and I really enjoyed the simple life. I really enjoyed going back to the total simple things in life that I usually don't have time to, meaning taking big walks in nature, whether it's upstate, we have a house upstate in the countryside, or in Central Park here in New York, driving and just exploring nature, going to waterfalls, taking a canoe out, cooking, being home, just experimenting with cooking, which I always love to do, and I never have time for it. So we usually just order in here in New York. So now I don't order in anymore. I'm just cooking as much as I can. And writing new music, just thinking about things, writing poetry, words, lyrics, reading books, and playing board games with my family. We haven't played board games forever, so it was so much fun to just be and do this simple stuff and enjoying nature, catching frogs, and doing crazy things like this.
So, talk to me about the new project. This seems like
Hold
it's
on, I have to get my dog, and he's barking
yeah, yeah.
because,
You're fine.
hey, come on in. Let's go. Let's go. Yes.
So, this project seems like it's near and dear to you. Talk to me a little bit about this brand new album.
Well, I am singing the music of Weill also for a very long time. It's the very beginning of my road. Let's date back to 1985, the Cold War, when I was living in West Berlin at the time, and performing already in theater, but starting to really comprehend and study the music of Kurt Weill in the midst of this Cold War epicenter of Berlin at the time, as a divided city between East and West. It was interesting. I was definitely a rebellious young person, and I could reflect a lot of authenticity and anger in this music that I couldn't find elsewise. So I started recording. My somehow I was hired to be like the protagonist of all these recordings, from Universal Record, Decca Record in the 80s and 90s, all the way to the year 2000, the 15 albums with the works of Kurt Weill, Bertolt Brecht, and the American works too. And it was like a huge project at the time to revive the music of Weimar that was a bit, forgotten at the time, because World War II had been such a traumatic thing that even the German language was stigmatized still in those years. So in 1987, my first album, Ute Lemper Sings Kurt Weill, was for 1 year in the crossover charts, number one. It was a huge groundbreak at the time to give honor again to this music, mostly written by Jewish composers that later on were persecuted by the Nazis or thrown out of the country or killed. So this was an important historical series that was launched by Universal Music. Now, the decades passed, I did all kinds of stuff, movies, Broadway, shows, blah, 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 my own music since 25 years. And then came the year 2020, 25, and it is the 125th birthday of Kurt Weill. And my friend David Chesky, who lives in the neighborhood, also musician, composer, writer, kind of a cool guy, said, well, why don't we do something different? You know, Kurt Weill reimagined, groovy, bring it on to the new generations, take away this like cabaret image that Kurt Weill is like fall into. So we do something that is unusual to the ear and attractive to the younger generations. And that's what we did. You know, he did some cool tracks in a polyphonic manner and put grooves underneath. So the whole album floats like a vibe from beginning to the end, and certainly hits a bit more of a contemporary vein.
So talk to me a little bit about the beginnings. How did becoming an actress and getting into music, how did that happen for you? What were the foundations that were set for you to have such a long career?
Well, I mean, I was a teenager. I loved music. I had a band. It was jazz, fusion, funk, R&B at the time, and nothing to do with the music that's on this album. And it was the 70s, and I was definitely completely involved in music already as a teenager. I had taken dance lessons since I was a kid. I was already trained dancer, and so singing. And then after high school, I went straight to the Juilliard Art School, the theater school of Austria at the time. It was in Vienna, the Reinhardt Seminar. And then I started to do musical theater because I was educated in the three disciplines, and there were not many people in German-speaking countries who would do sing and dance and act at the same time. So I went into this. I wasn't really convinced. It wasn't my favorite to do musical theater musicals because the stories were just a little bit too kitsch often. And so I did like all of it, like Peter Pan and Cats and Cabaret and The Blue Angel and Chicago. Later, I did in Paris on stage and in London and on Broadway. So it was quickly in the international scene with the performances already, which was really great. And then and then since the year 2000, I thought, well, I want to do my own stuff because I didn't like to fit in a production always and have to do what the director is telling me. And I felt a bit more of a rebel and a free bird and curious, more curious. I wanted to go a bit more in the depth of things and not stay in this kind of slapstick musical comedy performance style. And that's when I started to write my own music, inspired by the album Punishing Kiss in the year 2000 at the time. That was an album where I was given songs to by Nick Cave and Scott Walker, by the Divine Comedy, Elvis Costello, Tom Waits. It was kind of like an offbeat alternative rock cabaret album. And I thought, well, I don't really need to sing then songs written for me. I can do it myself. So that's when I really started to be much more creative and take the journey that took the last 25 years of just doing my own shows with my own ideas and sometimes collaborations, of course, not always my own stuff, but the Brecht-Weill material always stayed close to me over time. I always enjoyed singing a bunch of Kurt Weill songs, and they're just part of my identity.
What was the first live jazz show you saw that blew you away? Or the first concert that you saw that made you think you wanted to do that one day?
I would say, well, it was long before YouTube. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to follow, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Nina Simone on YouTube live with the streaming. That didn't exist. So I had records at home that were really in LPs, of course, that really were inspiring me with those jazz performers. I didn't see them live until later on, until I was like already, 18, 19, 20 years old. That's when I would go and travel and see these great performers in the 70s. Otherwise, my big brother would take me to some concerts of Pink Floyd and Dire Straits and Joni Mitchell. So that was fun.
What's the best part about being a creator? Whether you're on stage as an actress or you're performing music, what gets you up every day? What do you look forward to?
Well, my kids get me up every day. I would sleep much longer if I could. Um, I love to just venture and create and be curious and see what happens. I have an idea. Um, I have a word, a poem, a text, a lyric. I go to the piano and I just start messing around, improvising, creating melodies, harmonics, successions. And it's like a painting that you start from the nothingness to elements, and then you put the mosaic together, splinters of all kinds of ideas, and they come together, and then you have to find a shape of it, and it takes a while, but this process is highly enjoyable, I think. And yeah, I really love to do that. And we have a recording studio in the house here with my husband, who's a drummer, a bass player, and nowadays I can edit my own vocals on Pro Tools. I'm a Pro Tools engineer at the same time, and it's really fun what you can do in your own living room by now. And you don't need to spend like thousands and thousands of dollars in expensive studios here in Manhattan. Most of it you can do yourself, which is really a fantastic thing.
So you've been pretty well decorated throughout your career with awards. What was an award that you received that you just didn't expect? One of the most surprising awards you ever got?
Well, first of all, the awards really never meant anything to me. They were like outside kind of like glorious little things that had nothing to do with the work itself. The real glory was actually the process of creating, the process of bringing this thing to life that was just an idea, or not even an idea, just follow along the creative ambience and fulfill your dream. That is the glory. These outside awards, oh my God. I mean, I was on stage in Chicago 8 shows a week in the West End, and I received the Laurence Olivier Award. And I just thought, okay, fine, here's the award. Now I have to make it to the show tonight. It was so exhausting at the time to do these 8 shows a week things. And the same with the French Award or the American Theater Award. It's nice. And then thinking back, they're more from a perspective of looking back like 10, 20 years ago. Oh, nice, I did receive that award. Yes, it was appreciated. But at the moment, that didn't mean that much. As much as, the applause is great after a concert and all of that stuff. But actually, the process of performing it itself and making music with my musicians and performing and capturing the moment, even in a spiritual way, to connect with the people out there and just to tell you a story. That's really the fantastic thing, to just, you know bringing life to a catapult life to a more elevated um, version for a couple of hours of intense life and celebration of the art, and connecting to the people out there.
Was there an actress growing up that you loved, someone that you emulated, you looked up to?
Yes, of course. I mean, at the time, I love the dancing by Anne Reinking and the music, All That Jazz, and the movie All That Jazz was amazing. I love Bette Midler in The Rose. The performance was really inspiring. The realism of her, of her playing Janis Joplin was like amazingly inspiring to me. And of course, the great jazz performers were inspiring. And then I love Barbara Streisand. Her early albums, she was amazing before she went into the pop music thing. And Joni Mitchell, of course, but actresses at the time. And let me see, at the time, I mean, there was always, of course, the Meryl Streep performances, Sophie's Choice, that was not to be topped. And yes, I mean, I was open to many people, and it was hard to find your own style in the beginning because you don't know yet who you are. So I never wanted to really copy anyone, neither in music, singing style, but I had a very open ears, but I was experimenting a lot to find my own way. I knew I had a great intuition, and I was a strong-minded person, but it didn't reflect right away in my neither writing or in my interpretations. Um, it was more like trying to do it good in the beginning instead of trying to do it really truthfully. So that took a couple of years, decades maybe, to find that authenticity.
So why do you love this music we call jazz?
Well, jazz is a realm of freedom. And it's a different realm, a different sphere. The language of jazz is obviously a very individual language because it is based also on very personal, individual feelings and moods, and not just craft, but also really inner life. And I mean, listening to Miles Davis and the way he celebrates time and analyzes or just breaks time apart into pieces and creates a new um, momentum of time or even new entity of time is just something wonderful. And it's really the opposite of pop music or even musical theater. It is really a celebration into a different um, mindset and freedom inside of music. And I don't like when jazz gets into the form or into the protocol of 16 bars you, 16 bars you, 16 bars you, and everyone whacks off and just goes crazy on their own solo, instead of approaching it in a more like a compositional sense, to bring you really into like an internal universe. Like Bill Evans or Brad Meldo often have this kind of internal version and vision um, with their concept of jazz. So that's what I like.
So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, you ran into the 18-year-old version of you. You could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated. What advice would you give that young version of you?
um, I would say slow down, take the take the uh, take the pressure out of everything in performing, and seek the internal road, and yeah, cultivate the pianissimo much more than the forte, and find the silence in between the notes.
Who's your favorite poet?
Maybe it's Rainer Maria Rilke, and that's more German Rilke, um, very philosophical, and yeah, beautiful thoughts. Hermann Hesse is a great author, but
Yeah.
Rilke is the poet that basically opens up these thought processes.
So if we get off this call and a time machine pulls up in front of your house and you can go back in history and see one jazz show, one live jazz show, where are you going?
Mhm. Ooh, definitely Paris somewhere, 1960 something, Miles Davis performing with Juliette Gréco reading poetry at the same time. That would be amazing. Then Sarah Vaughan on stage, jazz festival, anywhere there in those years, 1963, 64. I did and really, really love and very inspiring to me. I played the Monterey Jazz Festival a bunch of times, and like about 30, 20 years ago, I performed, and Al Jarreau was actually performing the same day, and I was finished, and then I ran to see his show. I sat in the first row, and I just was so in awe to see how he grooves and how he improvises and how he uses language and vocalism to create an instrumental feeling and line. And I just really, really loved that stuff. And I thought, oh my God, that would be just amazing too. I tried myself a little. I wasn't ready for it at the time. Now I understand it even more.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, everyone that you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
That's what my husband always thinks. Who do you think you
Who do you
are?
think you are?
Um, I'm, I don't know, I try to ride the wave and stay away from the negative and the loneliness and stuff, that comes along with life, and stick to yeah, stuff that is important, can make other people happy. And performing is definitely one of my big passions in life. More even now that I'm older than when I was younger, because I actually can perform now without feeling any pressure or fear, just really for the simple moment and the joy of doing it, and the, celebrating music together with my musicians. Um, I um I don't know, I'm definitely a woman of an opinion. I do not like to be intimidated or doubted, or I can doubt myself enough. Um, uh, co- I really, I would say, like to live the life the way I see it, and I'm very allergic to people messing and trying to mess with that freedom of life that I have acquired and I have fought for.
So the new album, Pirate Jenny, what are you hoping the listener gets from this album?
It's definitely a very cool new interpretation of Weill, Kurt Weill. Take it along and enjoy it, and yeah, let's have him be alive for another good 50 years. Definitely, let's have him be reinvented and rediscovered, by people who didn't know him, or enjoyed by people who know him for a long time, in a very different coat, in a very different reimagined arrangement. And yes, I think what's cool is I recorded my own vocals. Obviously, I have a multitude of vocals often that I make play with each other, and in this kind of surround sound feel of the album, this immersive style, also with the keyboards and the tracks and the grooves. So you're almost like in the room with the Pirate Jenny, in the room with the Three Penny Opera, with a Mac the Knife. And it's a very unusual, I would say, unconventional performance style, inspired by some jazz, but also just some kind of free, completely unorthodox ways of interpreting it. And there's my undervoices, my sub ego is talking nonstop at the same time, coming out of the right side, and some kind of angelic floats of instrumental interpretations come from the left side. And then there is the main storytelling voice comes from the middle. So it's an interesting tapestry of voices that kind of that you get immersed in, and the story like lives all around you, especially if you wear headphones.
Wow, that's a great description. So if anyone wants to pick up the album, they want to catch you live, any of your previous work, where's the best place to go?
Well, utelemper.com is my
Okay.
my website. All the concerts are there. I have my own YouTube channel. Just put Ute Lemper YouTube. You see all kinds of different videos from all different projects. And just click on all the platforms from Spotify to Amazon, whatever. You see the album Pirate Jenny, but just make sure you take the reimagined version, because there's lots of versions out there from over decades. It's the new version, Pirate Jenny reimagined, of the year 2025, the year of his 125th birthday.
You're amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. It's
For your
great
thoughtful questions.
yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. I love to get to the essence.
That's really wonderful. And I enjoy your background. I didn't have time to put a better one. I'm in a boring room here.
Oh, you're okay. I'm a visual artist, so that's one of my originals. It's my logo. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Well, that looks like Manhattan to me.
it's downtown Kansas City, but yeah, it has that definite New York vibe to it. So it kind of is cross-cultural, cross-geographical. It's good, you know.
Very cool. That's
Yep.
cool that you make it your background. It fits the topics, right? It
Yeah,
looks like the Chrysler building a little bit there in the
it
back there, the pinky
it
one.
does. Yeah, it
Jazz
totally
fans, Joe Domino here, the host of the weekly Neon Jazz radio show and regular interview series being produced and distributed from Lee Summit, Missouri. We are very excited to let you know about the second annual Lee Summit Jazz Festival taking place again this summer on June 28th at the Bridge Space, located at 210 Southwest Market Street in downtown Lee Summit. Following the success of the 2024 festival, the lineup will include Lee Summit students, Casey Area Youth Jazz, Paganova with Michael Pagan, Horoscope with Stan Kessler, Brad Gregory, Adam Larson, and the Lee Summit Jazz Orchestra. There will also be food trucks and vendors to round out a day of celebration. Early bird tickets are 2 for $30, and all details can be found at lsjazzfest.com. We can't wait to see you there.